Okay, so there's this situation that happens to real estate investors and business owners. You do everything right. You buy rentals, you build cash flow. Your account does a great job writing off depreciation, repairs, mileage, all of it. And your tax bill drops, so he does a good job. And then you go buy your next rental property and the lender tells you that you don't make enough money. You're clearly making great money, but unfortunately you don't show it on paper. The good news is there's a loan to solve this problem. It's called DSCR loan. Most people completely misunderstand what it's actually for. But in the next 10 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what a DSCR loan is, how the math works. I'll run a real property through it so you can see the numbers. You can see what lenders actually require, what it costs compared to a conventional loan, and also who should absolutely not use a DSCR loan. At the end, I'll give you a piece almost nobody talks about, the strategic reason to choose a DSCR loan even when you could qualify the traditional way. So without further ado, let's get into it. DSCR stands for debt service coverage ratio. Long name, simple idea. The rent the property generates divided by the mortgage payment equals DSCR. That's it. That's the whole thing. So you're pretty much just asking one question. Does this property make enough money to pay for itself? If the rent is exactly equal to the payment, your ratio is 1.0. The property breaks even. If the rent is higher than the payment, you're above 1.0 and the property pays for itself with a little bit of room to spare. And if the rent is lower, you're below 1.0, which just means the property doesn't quite pay for itself on its own. Now, here's why, if you're an investor or a business owner, this all matters so much. With a conventional loan, the lender underwrites you, your W-2s, your tax returns, your debt to income ratio, your job history. With a DSCR loan, your credit score is still taken into consideration, but the lender underwrites the property itself. They're not asking, can this person afford it? They're asking, can the property afford itself? That's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. So let me give you actual numbers so you can understand this all more clearly. Let's say you find a rental property, purchase price is $300,000. You put 25% down, that's $75,000 out of pocket, and you're financing $225,000. So your rate comes in around 6.75%. Principal and interest on that is roughly $1,460 a month. But understand that the lender uses the full payment, taxes, insurance, HOA if there is one. So let's call taxes and insurance $400 a month. That puts your total payment at about $1,860 per month, and the property rents for $2,200. So $2,200 divided by $1,860 gives you a DSCR of about 1.18. You're above 1.0. Now, watch what happens if I change the number. Same property, same everything, but the market rent is $1,800 instead of $2,200. $1,800 divided by $1,860 is 0.97. So you're under 1.0. Still doable deal, but usually when you're below 1.0, it's going to affect your pricing, your rate, your fees. So what do? You change the payment. Put 5% more down, 30% instead of 25. Now you're financing $210,000. Your principal and interest payment drops to about $1,360, and your total payment is around $1,762. $1,800 divided by $1,762 is 1.02. And just like that, you're back over 1.0. Same property, same rent, better pricing, nothing about the property changed. You just change the structure by putting more down. And again, being over 1.0 will get you better pricing. That's the thing that I want you to take away from this whole video. On a DSCR loan, your down payment isn't just a down payment, it's a dial, and you can turn it. Okay, so what does it take to actually get one of these? Well, first off, DSCR loans are non-QM products, which means every lender writes their own rules. So there are ranges that I'm seeing right now in the market. It's not a guarantee of what any specific lender is going to offer you. But first, the ratio. Most programs want 1.0 or better. Some will go lower. In certain cases, I've seen lenders go down to 0.75, but expect for pricing to be affected if you go that low. And if you can get a DSCR ratio 1.25 or better, that's when you start to unlock the best pricing. Next, credit score. Minimums generally start somewhere in the low 600s, but here's the part that I really want you to pay attention to. The minimum is not the target. On these loans, your score doesn't decide whether you qualify. It decides your rate and how much you have to put down. Typically, 700 and above is where the terms start getting juicy, where the terms start getting a lot better. Then your down payment, plan on 20 to 25%. If you've got a weaker ratio or a lower credit score, expect 25 to 30. There's no 3% down version of this loan, and there never will be, because the equity is the lender's protection. It's what's replacing your tax returns, reserves, and this is one that catches people off guard. Lenders typically want 3 to 6 months of the property's full payment sitting in a bank after closing. People budget for the down payment and completely forget about the cushion behind it. You don't want to get to the closing table and find out that you're short. If you're doing a DSCR cash out refinance, many lenders will use the cash out as reserves. And then the property itself, single family, 2 to 4 units, condo, some mixed use. Short-term rental income is accepted by some lenders and not by others. So ask about that early on. Now, here's what you don't need. No tax returns, no W-2s, no pay stubs, no employment verification, no personal debt to income calculation, and most DSCR loans you can close in an LLC. With conventional financing, you can't do that. One more thing to point out, you'll see lenders advertise a low minimum credit score to get a DSCR loan and then quietly require a stronger ratio or a bigger down payment to actually approve the file. So never look at that one number by itself. Ask what the whole picture looks like. Okay, so now let's talk about the trade-off, because there is one, and I'm not going to pretend that there isn't. DSCR loans are typically priced higher than conventional loans, generally somewhere in the neighborhood of 0.5 point to 1.5 points above a comparable conventional investment loan, depending on your ratio, your credit, and the property. And this is the exact moment where investors make a mistake. They see a higher rate, they stop there, and they say, I'll just do it conventionally. And sometimes that's the right call, especially if you're buying your first rental and you got clean, well-documented W-2 income. A conventional investment loan is usually going to cost you less. So take it if it does. But if that's the only thing you're looking at, you're evaluating this loan wrong. And that's what I want to spend the next few minutes on. So check this out. Almost everybody treats a DSCR loan like it's a loan that you settle for, the backup plan, thing that you use when you can't qualify the normal way. And I want you to think about this completely differently, because every conventional mortgage you take out consumes something. It consumes your debt to income capacity. It's kind of like a seat at the table and there's only so many chairs. Buy one rental conventionally, no problem. By 2, it gets a little tighter. By the 3rd and the 4th, the ratio starts closing doors on you. And not just doors on rentals, on your primary residence, on a business loan, on the deal that shows up next year that you didn't even know was coming. A DSCR loan doesn't take a seat at the table. So the real question isn't which loan has the lower rate today. The real question is, which loan enables me to do the next thing? Because sometimes paying a slightly higher rate on a property that pays for itself is exactly the right trade. It keeps your personal borrowing power in play. And that's not settling, that's planning, that's building, that's sequencing it the right way. I've got tons of investors who qualify for loans conventionally without breaking a sweat, and they choose the DSCR loan anyway because they're not trying to optimize one loan. They're optimizing a portfolio over the next 10 years. The lowest rate and the best loans are not always the same loan. And on this channel, we're gonna come back to that idea a lot. So let's go ahead and recap. A DSCR loan qualifies the property, not you. The math is rent divided by the full payment. Most lenders want a number at 1.0 or better. Expect 20 to 25% down, a credit score that's driving your pricing more than your eligibility, and having reserves in the bank at closing. You're going to pay a little bit more in rate, and in exchange, you keep your personal debt to income capacity free for whatever comes next. And if you want to take one thing from this video, take this. Your down payment is a dial. When a deal doesn't pencil, you're not stuck. You just restructure. So if you're looking at a property right now, do this today. Take the market rent, divide it by the full payment, including the taxes and insurance, see where you land. That number is going to tell you almost everything about whether this loan is even on the table. And if you want a second set of eyes on the actual deal, the property, the ratio, how it fits with everything else you're trying to build, reach out, let's have a conversation. I'll see you in the next video.